Warzone 2, since its release, has been absolutely riddled with bugs, errors, crashes, glitches, and so much more. But the game is also incredibly fun to play, with mechanics that make it easy to pick up for anyone that can get their hands on it. Because of that, I've decided it was time to give you all my comprehensive review of Call of Duty Warzone 2. And for this review specifically, I've split things into 3 categories, those being the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's get started with the good. And the first thing I'd like to mention under the good category is the map design. Truly, other than a few areas, it's phenomenal. From there being multiple routes in and throughout buildings, to the different environments you can find yourself in, and even how much better the colors are than both Caldera and Verdansk, it's a masterpiece. But with that said, I also think it's probably one of the most important qualities a Battle Royale needs to nail, because if they don't, we could end up losing a ton of audience like we did with Caldera. Although luckily, I've not really heard any complaints in this area. One area I have heard some complaints in are the new in-game mechanics. However, I think the changes are great, and that's why they've made it into the good section. Not only did we get dolphin diving back after around 10 years, but also finally swimming has made a return to Call of Duty and a brand new mechanic, ledge hanging. While I didn't originally care for ledge hanging, as I've played a lot more Warzone over the past few weeks than I had the chance to play Modern Warfare 2, it's actually been pretty cool. I like that it allows you to go places you wouldn't have been able to in the original Warzone, but it also allows you to shoot over walls with a pistol and drop right back down when needed. That's definitely a W in my book. However, along with the new mechanics, they also decided to take away some of the old ones, like slide canceling and bunny hopping. Although, the old ones weren't exactly mechanics that were originally intended by the developers. While they may have sanctioned them after some time, and were even happy they were part of the game, it was just a bit of advanced movement that was found and utilized by the higher skilled players. Luckily for us though, they tried to win back our hearts with an FOV slider for all platforms, about time, and proximity chat, which has been an absolute blast.
Don't be a what?
I'm gonna be a And if you're looking for some content with proximity chat, be sure to check out some of my other Warzone 2 videos. Next, I'm very happy they've added so many different vehicles and vehicle mechanics like popping tires, repairing and refueling, leaning out windows, and climbing to the roof of any land vehicle. Moving past all the obviously good changes, we find ourselves at some of the questionable changes that I personally think are, over time, going to be better for the casual player base. And I recognize that while many people think it's wrong to pander to the casual players, it's pretty important to do so, as they basically pay to keep this game alive. Making sure they're having fun is the only reason Call of Duty breaks records year over year. Within this category, the first thing is the low time to kill. While Warzone 1 over time changed their time to kill from low to pretty high, having a lower TTK will help the casual players more than anything else. The vocal players are always the ones complaining, but they're also usually pretty good and therefore passionate about the game, because heck, they put a ton of time and effort into being as good as they are. However, the casuals are, like I said, the ones that keep the game alive, and to be honest, most of them can't aim very well. With a lower time to kill, this means they have to get less bullets on the target and are going to get more excitement and eliminations than they would have with a higher TTK. Past that, we have the new looting and inventory system. While going through the bags is a pain, especially for those on controller, being able to carry a ton of any specific item and even an extra of something your teammates may be in need of has been hugely impactful in a positive way to the gameplay. Yes, I recognize it's annoying that players can spam self-revives multiple times, but you do have to have a downside to everything. And the final thing I'm loving about Warzone 2 is how they've tried very hard to even the playing field for all inputs. In the past, I've spoken about how Warzone was built for controller players, and if you're someone that's tried both inputs and fully understands how to utilize both kinds of aim assist, but specifically rotational, you'll likely know why I've said that. However, in Warzone 2, they've done a great job and made it more even for both input types. It feels like playing close range happens much less often, and gunfights tend to stay around mid-range. Now, of course, if you're a controller player, it's your job to force the close range battles, but with mouse and keyboard players trying to do the opposite and not having to work too hard to make that happen, it feels more balanced than in previous Call of Duties. On top of that, the looting and inventory system is slightly faster for those on mouse and keyboard. This means they're less likely to get caught in a bag, however, it does tend to be a bit harder to get out of them for some reason. Now, that's some of the great features and innovations that came with Warzone 2, but it is time to talk about the bad ones, and while we do, I'm going to do my best to make recommendations on how to fix a lot of these. To begin, certain areas of the map are pretty much impossible to play in. For example, anytime you make it into the desert area near the Rohan Oil POI, you have basically no cover. I think adding in some smaller and larger rocks throughout the area would help make the gunfights a bit more challenging and less annoying. Past the map, I have to talk about the clunky movement mechanics. First, the slow movement while plating has to go, or at the very least be altered to where after one plate you move faster or something similar. On top of that, there shouldn't be a time where we're in a buy station or a bag trying to select something, and if someone decides to shoot at us, we're completely stuck and pretty much guaranteed to die. An easy fix for this would be to add an option in the settings to immediately close menus upon movement. Another bad change would have to be the removal of reload canceling. Personally, I like it this way as it slows down gunfights and makes games last a little longer, but I think it adds more issues for those that have learned the game in specific ways and have to fully adapt their playstyle to not cancel their reload. I would like to note, it will only keep you from canceling a reload if the magazine is fully out of your weapon. Next, we have a big one, and that is the sheer difficulty of regains in Warzone 2. First, there's no cash during the late game, and it makes it feel almost impossible to get back your teammates. If you can get your teammates back, it usually takes 5 to 10 minutes if there's not a safecracker or intel contract laying around for you to grab. But then, of course, those are likely to be guarded by enemies going for free eliminations. On top of there being no cash, buy stations are further apart, making it where even after you grab the money, it's going to take an additional 2 minutes to find a buy station, which again is pretty much guaranteed to be guarded. An easy solution to a lot of this would be to add a few more buy stations around the map, or even bring back deployable buy stations, as well as ensure every single chest that's looted is guaranteed to have money in it. Whether that happens to be $250 or even $500, it needs something. I can't tell you the number of times I've looted dozens of chests while trying to resurrect a teammate only to still have nothing and die because I'm alone. At that point, I'd rather just leave and find another match. And after all that to get a teammate back, you can also only buy a certain amount of items at a buy station. However, I think a solution for this would be to add a spin minimum to basically reset the buy station. This means if you and your team want to buy 2 UAVs from a single buy station, after buying the first UAV for 4,000, you could spend something like another 6, making it a total of 10k spend, and the UAVs would refill. They could even just increase the price of the UAV to $10,000, but at that point, it makes it less accessible overall and could slow the pace of the match even further, especially for the lower skilled players. To complete the bad section, we have the poorly made pinging system. In the original Warzone, the pings would match the color of the player that pinged it, but now they're all the same color, and that's chosen by your neutral color in the color customization panel in your settings. Without that, it makes it really difficult to know who's pinging and overall more confusing than it needs to be. Luckily, the last part of this video is actually relatively short, and while the problems within this section shouldn't need much explanation as to how to fix them, they're the biggest reason most players are going to stop playing within such a short time. So, as for Warzone 2's ugly side, to start things off, we have the kill feed. See, while there is currently a kill feed in the game, it doesn't work most of the time, and when it does work, it only shows half of what's actually happening. It also never shows team wipes, which are supposed to show in the center of your screen when you eliminate someone, but that also tends to not happen half the time as well. Next, we have cheaters. While we're seeing fewer cheaters than we did in Caldera, and definitely less than there were in Verdansk, cheaters are still in Warzone 2, and somehow they've even figured out how to make boats, yes, the vehicles meant to be in water, fly across the map and run people over. And if the cheaters weren't enough, across all platforms, and especially PC, there have been an unbearable amount of crashes. For PC specifically, I know from firsthand experience that every other game when playing in a party, it's almost guaranteed that one of the players on your team is going to crash, and you're either going to have to back out or fight the rest of the match without them. This for me has been the biggest problem, and personally, I think it's the reason most creators are turning away from the game. All they would have to do to give a temporary fix for this while they continue investigating the issues causing it is to add a join back feature. This would allow players, after they're removed from the match, to join back and either pick up where they left off, or my recommendation, have it where their loot drops to the floor upon exit and they become purchasable at the buy station for the next 3 minutes. Then, after the 3 minutes has concluded, they can no longer rejoin the match. Moving on, while glitches in some scenarios aren't necessarily bad, the speed at which certain glitches are being fixed and others aren't is pretty annoying. To start with, every single time there's a glitch that makes it where you can more quickly level the weapons in the game, it's patched within 24 hours. But if there's a glitch that makes the game unwinnable or something similar, it's likely to not get patched for a week or more. To me, that's pretty disgusting. And if there's one thing I'd like to call them out on, it has to be that. Genuinely, do better. I know that we want to make sure people have something to do while playing, but worrying about whether players were able to get their guns leveled and attachments faster rather than more pressing matters is wildly frustrating on a consumer side. It already takes forever to level these weapons. Put your devs to work on the things that need fixing. Next, we find ourselves at Warzone 2's missing features. The first of which is the double XP timer, which to begin with, we were already being scammed on because it still counts toward the double XP time while in the lobby. But now we don't even get an actual timer. The sad part is that this was already a problem in Modern Warfare 2, and as time goes on, I'm starting to think they've done this on purpose. Past that, not being able to save your own custom blueprint for a weapon has to be the single most frustrating thing about the new gunsmith. Knowing that I can put 5 attachments on a weapon and then tune each of those attachments to a specific decimal point and then not be able to save that to come back to later is honestly the worst oversight I've ever seen out of a video game. However, out of all the problems with Warzone 2, I think I could get over everything if it wasn't for the god-awful audio. For a game that was just nominated for the best audio design of the year for its multiplayer and campaign counterpart, I'm baffled at the non-existent footsteps in this game. While the game already has a field upgrade to mute your footsteps, it seems to not matter because they don't make any noise anyway. That is, unless you're a lower skilled player, because I swear it seems like every single time I'm pushing someone that's not paying attention, they somehow hear me from a mile away, when I can't hear a guy slamming through doors 2 feet behind me. This needs a fix, and it needs it yesterday. It needed it 2 weeks ago, a month ago. This should have came with the game. I am literally blown away that this is a problem after the launch of the game. Just say it's a beta, for the love of God, and we would have forgiven you for a lot of this, but good Lord. Okay, I'm getting a little hot-headed here. I'm sorry. This is the most, I swear, that I'll be upset. And finally, here's a list of removed quality of life features that were in the original Warzone but have somehow not made their way into Warzone 2. First, an advanced heads-up display that would show the items in your team's inventory as well as yours, editing your loadouts while you're waiting on the match to start, lootable perks, lootable redeploy tokens, lootable gulag tokens, being able to toggle your gas mask, and ghost only working when moving. Overall, like I said in the beginning of the video, the game is incredibly fun. I know many people like to say this is the honeymoon phase for the game, and some are even saying they're already over it, but personally, after playing the original Warzone for so long, this game just feels like a breath of fresh air, and we needed that. Now, do I think there's a lot of work to be done? Yes. Do I think that if the work isn't done in a timely manner, that the game has a large possibility of failing? Also, yes. But truthfully, I'm just hoping they get things together and they do it soon, because for all the fun I'm having in Warzone 2, right now it's just being matched with a lot of negative feelings due to the problems they've allowed to pass through the cracks. And yes, don't worry, I know there was a lot more I could have mentioned, but I chose what I felt was the most relevant. However, feel free to share your thoughts in a comment on the video. Either way, if you're finding yourself struggling to understand the game or even just want to get better and have a chance to fight all the sweaty players out there, make sure to check out my ultimate guide to Warzone 2 and subscribe already.